Before we go any further, I'm not a reporter, and this isn't a news update. This is commentary. And what I'm about to walk you through is how the media talked itself into a Venezuela war narrative that collapsed almost as fast as it showed up. Because when you step back and actually look at what happened, this whole thing starts to look less like breaking news and a lot more like a total setup.
My life is a kind of unbroken chain of bad predictions and embarrassing analysis.
Is Trump going to start a war in Venezuela?
Members of Congress were briefed yesterday that a war is coming, and it'll be announced in the address to the nation tonight at 9 o'clock by the president.
Maybe from the White House, because for about 24 hours, the news media convinced itself that we were on the brink of war with Venezuela. Fighter jets, blockades, escalation, and then nothing happened. And I want to be very clear and upfront. I'm not breaking any news here. I'm not claiming secret knowledge with Egyptian planes, and I'm not pretending to have inside access. This is commentary. This is about how narratives get built, why people fall for them, and how they sometimes collapse in real time. But for about a full day, the media convinced itself Trump was on the verge of declaring war on Venezuela. The language got dramatic, fast. The escalation, the blockades, fighter jets, imminent conflict, it was everywhere. And you even had someone like Tucker Carlson come out and say that last night Donald Trump was going to make a declaration against Venezuela.
Is Trump going to start a war in Venezuela?
I don't know. I don't know when this program airs, the one that we're on right now. This thing's maybe live.
We're live now, and then
Okay.
it'll be posted immediately. So now,
my sense is, I don't know the answer. I've certainly been on the phone a lot about it. I have no power. I'm a podcaster, but I'm very interested. And so here's what I know so far, which is that members of Congress were briefed yesterday that a war is coming, and it'll be announced in the address to the nation tonight at 9 o'clock by the president. Who knows, by the way, if that will actually happen.
So there you go. There's Tucker Carlson making a statement on the show yesterday that members of Congress were briefed and that Donald Trump was going to come out and make a declaration of war against Venezuela. Now, for me, the most logical source that Tucker Carlson had for this misinformation would come right here from a lady by the name of Marjorie Taylor Greene that has recently been scorned by the White House and has actually said that she is going to leave the Republican Party.
I'm not in a cult. I am not in a cult. People that think they have to defend every single letter or word or sentence of President Trump, if you think that's what you have to do, you are in a cult. I am not in a cult. I elected President Trump. I fought for him and put him in the White House. And again, I'll remind everybody, voted with him 98% of the time, put him in the White House because I believed in America First policies.
I believe Tucker Carlson's source could very well be on the screen right now. And I don't think it's Alex Jones. But if you step back and look at actually what happened, not the hype, not the speculation, just the reality, something doesn't add up. There was no declaration, no follow through, no moment where the story matched the panic. And that's where this gets interesting.
Well, Steve, I first have to say I really appreciate the White House's ability to run an information operation on so much of social media, putting all this information out there, sort of these strategic leaks to make people think that this was going to be some kind of speech about Venezuela, to make them think there was going to be some sort of, attack going on. This is about to come down. When ultimately, many of us who have close sources to the White House, and I was at the White House earlier this afternoon, were told that it was going to be an end-of-year speech focusing on what.
So this is Jack Posobiec. He runs the Post Millennial. He's a Navy veteran on with Steve Bannon. He kind of goes down the same path that I'm at. The White House ran a deliberate info op. Strategic leaks pushed in Venezuela in war. As you said, Steve, some people got bad info and they're realizing now that they got bad info. Because when a narrative explodes that fast and then quietly fizzles out, it tells you a lot less about the foreign policy, a lot more about how the media and the media system works. This is Michael Knowles. He's thinking exactly what I am. He pulled a war in Venezuela fake out. This was a rope-a-dope for the news media to make the networks broadcast all his first-year wins in primetime. Donald Trump went last night on every news network and highlighted an entire year of accomplishments. And the news outlets were waiting with like bated breath, foaming mouths for Donald Trump to come out and make a declaration against Venezuela. And it never happened. He got an absolute highlight reel of accomplishments on every major network. Now, this is going to raise the real question. Was this ever about reality, or did the media walk itself straight into a setup? Another person here, meet Bad Hombre, has the same exact thought process that I've got. But here's what this looks like and why people believed it and why it imploded. Because this whole Venezuela narrative fell apart. The United States Navy's got this under control in the Caribbean. For about 24 hours, the news media they conned people. They conned everyone into thinking something bad was going to happen. And this raises a much bigger question and why many of you watch channels like mine. Because we've seen this before. Once you start to see this pattern, you notice it more often. You pick up on the tells. And when everyone is looking one way, do yourself a favor. Turn around. Look the other way. Be the person that doesn't get ran over from behind. Here we've got Thomas Massie in Congress yesterday talking about the narco problem that we've got in the Caribbean.
If the president believes military action against Venezuela is justified and needed, he should make the case and Congress should vote.
Now, if you notice here, Thomas Massie is a registered Republican. However, he never votes with Republicans. More often than not, he votes with Democrats. And what he's doing here is trying to get Donald Trump to send it to Congress to make a declaration of war. Donald Trump is not a war fighter. He's not a president that wants war. He's a president that's actually stopped multiple wars. And Thomas Massie, I think, has more egg on his face.
I can report to you what Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman said today, who went into a classified briefing and came out and said, we know exactly who's on the boats. We know exactly what they're doing. We know exactly what they have.
When they move on those kinetic kinds of strikes, they have absolute confidence that who's on it and what's on it, and that's exactly what it's about. They're not just going around randomly just shooting boats in those things. That's just not the fact.
We can't ever let you see these are classified briefings, but you have a United States senator of the president's opposition party saying, I got a briefing, I saw the intelligence, and we know exactly what we're doing.
They lied for months.
This is another narrative killer. Whenever you have a Democrat senator coming out and confirming what Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, and many other people have seen, it destroys the narrative that the left and the left-wing news media tries to propagate. Here we've got in real time an actual news reporter, not a commentator. He should be reporting the news, but he allows his own personal opinion to get in the way. I recommend he starts a commentary channel like mine, because then people would watch him for his opinion. Most people want to see news reported from a station called NBC News.
Was with the sort of brisk pace and that intense energy is again lay out a series, a lot of his grievances, many falsehoods in the course of it. And again, repeatedly, he blamed right out of the gates his predecessor.
So this is how it was played out. The news media was caught with their hands in a cookie jar that had no cookies. They're upset. They know they got played. They gave Donald Trump free airtime for millions of people. More people than actually would watch their channel if anything else was on. Everybody was waiting for this gotcha moment with Trump, and it never happened.
In front of me, this is the Maritime Drug Law Enforcement Act of 1986, authored by a member of Congress in 1986 from the state of New York. His name, Chuck Schumer. He wrote the law that passed almost unanimously that makes it legal to blow drug boats out of the water. It happened in the 80s a lot, in the 90s a lot. Go ahead, look it up, folks. Chuck Schumer, the author of this bill that made what we're doing with Venezuelan drug boats fully legal. We don't need.
So the news media, once again, will not touch this. Channels like mine will. Chuck Schumer, one of the biggest critics of going after the narco boats, actually wrote the law in 1986. Now, that should tell you something, that Chuck Schumer's been an elected official for the better part of 39 years. But this is part of what the narrative is, that the news media will completely avoid. And I don't know about you. I didn't know this. A little bit of research, and someone else did.
77 million voted for a president willing to blow drug boats out of the ocean. Isn't America great?
America is great. And the meme using Bob Ross displays exactly what the American people voted for. We voted for a secure border. We voted to stop these dangerous substances coming into the United States. There's a lot of things that are happening, and the news media covers what they want, and they avoid what they don't, which raises a bigger question. Was this ever real? Or did the media talk itself into a narrative that collapsed and they got played? They played themselves. And that's the part I don't want people to miss here. This wasn't really about Venezuela. It wasn't really about Trump. It was about how fast narratives move now, how quickly speculation turns into certainty, and how rarely anyone stops to ask whether the story actually holds up. When the dust has settled, there was no war, no declaration, no follow through, just a media cycle that sprinted ahead of reality and quietly pretended nothing happened. People want to be first rather than right. And that's why the trust keeps eroding. Not because people are cynical, but because they keep being shown how the game works. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just saying watch the pattern. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And we see it a lot right here. Smash a like and subscribe button on your way out the door. And I'll see you in the next one.